Hey everyone, it's Jesse, and today I'm going to walk through how to clone a GitHub repository. So I'm going to start way at the beginning by installing Node, and with that is going to come npm Node Package Manager. We're going to go over how to install Git on your local machine, and then we're going to actually take a repository from GitHub. We're going to clone it onto our machine, and we're going to install all of the packages that we need and then start it up so that we could actually see the project on our local machine and make changes if we want. So let's get started. You can see I have a command line terminal open. So I use iTerm, and I have some custom colors here. So if your terminal doesn't look like mine, don't worry about it. It'll still work. So whether you're on Windows, Mac, or Linux, this should work pretty much the same way. I'm on a Mac, so my commands will match up with the Linux commands. There may be some slight differences on Windows. So if some of these commands aren't working, check on what the Windows equivalent of these Mac commands are. So the first thing you want to do is install Node. Okay, this is NodeJS. It allows you to run server-side code, server-side JavaScript code. Okay, you can go to the NodeJS website, and the download page will recommend downloads depending on your system. So the safest bet is to go with the LTS. If you like to live on the edge and be have the newest features, you could try to do the current one, but you can download this. Now there are other ways to download Node on your machine. I'm going over one way to do it. So if you see a different tutorial that says something different, then it doesn't mean it's wrong. There are just a variety of ways to do it. When we download Node, this will also come with Node Package Manager. So I'm not going to download Node again, but just to test to make sure that we do have Node on our system, we can run node-v, and it tells me the version number of Node. So I know I have Node. To make sure I have npm Node Package Manager on my system, I can also run npm-v. I'm sorry, it's hyphen. It's not a dash. It's -v. Okay, and I have npm as well. Okay, so after you go through that process, which may take a while, okay, now you're ready to go on to Git. Now, at any point during this process, if you're on a Mac, you may be prompted to download Xcode. Download Xcode. It might take a while, but you're going to need Xcode. You're also going to want to make sure you have the administrator access to your machine. If you don't have admin access, a lot of this probably will not work. So you're going to have to figure out, a way to get administrator access somehow on a machine. So there are also a variety of ways to install Git locally. For me, the way I usually use, it seems to be the easiest, is to download the GitHub desktop app. And then all your command line tools for Git will also be installed. It's really easy. This is like download, you click it, and it's nice. So you don't really have to have a lot of command line experience. So that's why I like it. If you want and you're not really comfortable with the command line, you can even use this desktop app to do a lot of the things in Git that we're going to do here on the command line. So it's entirely up to you. I've never used the desktop app, but the result will be the same whether you use the command line or the desktop app. So go ahead and download that. When that's finished, you can also check to make sure you have Git installed by saying git v. Oops. Okay, so the v doesn't work. Oh, you actually have to type version. Okay, so we have Git installed. Now we can get a repository. So let's go to GitHub, if you have a GitHub account, you'll see a screen like this. I happen to be using the dark theme for GitHub, so by default, it won't look like this. It'll be a lot lighter. It won't have the black background and everything. Don't worry, it works the same way no matter what the colors are. If you don't have an account, you may see a little bit of a different screen. But what we want to do is navigate to an actual repository. So I've already selected a repository that I've done, and this is one I finished up a week or two ago. And you'll see here is a clone or download button. That's where we want to be. All right, we want to go to the clone or download button. A good repository will have some instructions. So this one happens to have instructions to walk you through how to clone and install it. So that can be very helpful. You won't always see that in a repository though. So what you should do first is click on this clone or download button, and you want to grab this address. That's what word I'm thinking of. You want to get this address so you can copy it to your clipboard. Now you have to have SSH keys set up for this to work. If you haven't done that, you can just use this link, the HTTPS link. Now we're not going to use these ways, but if you'd like to use that desktop version, you can just open it up right in the desktop version like this, or you can download the zip file. So we're going to use the SSH version of this on the command line. So let's go back here to our command line. By default, your terminal will put you in your home directory. I don't like to clone repositories right to my home directory. It makes things too messy. So I create a directory called projects. So let's go into that. So I'm going to cd, all right, to change directory, and I'm going to type projects. Okay. If you're new to the command line, you'll notice that I didn't type the whole thing out. A nice trick is just to type the first few letters of the directory or file you're looking for, and then hit the tab key, and it'll auto-complete the rest of it. So let's hit enter. Now I'm in the projects folder. If I do ls, it'll show me all the folders in this projects folder. So you can see I have a lot of stuff going on in here. So you can see how messy it would get if I put all of that in my home directory. So that's why I like to separate it out. So what we want to do now, remember we've copied this, so we still have that copied to our clipboard. So we want to use that git command. So we're going to say git space clone. We're going to put another space in there, and then we're going to paste in that link that we just copied on GitHub. And when we hit enter, that whole project now has been saved. So if we do an ls again, we can see that we now have a folder, and that folder is called React Seeding Manager. So the folder name matches the project name. So if we want to do anything with the project, we have to remember to actually go into that folder. I've often made the mistake of starting to work in this projects folder and not realizing why nothing is working because I didn't actually go into that folder. I actually made that mistake yesterday. So it's very common. Don't worry if it happens, but you want to make sure you cd right into that folder. So you can see it's not, I'm trying to hit tab and it's not auto-completing because I have so many things that start with React. It doesn't know which one I want. So I have to type a little bit more. There we are. Now let's go into there. And if we hit ls and then give it a flag, which means we're going to say hyphen and then put a letter, in this case A, we can see even the hidden files in this repository. So we're seeing everything now. And we see this .git, which anything with a dot in front is normally hidden. But that tells us that this is a Git repository, which we should expect because we just got it from GitHub. All right, but we also have this Package.JSON file, and that's an important file. So let's take a look at it before we do anything else. And that Package.JSON file is going to show us a lot of what's going to go on when we go to install and then run the code that's here. So I'm going to open up this project in Visual Studio Code. You can open it up in whatever editor you like to use. Atom is also another good editor. It's open source from GitHub. Visual Studio Code is also free. There are some other paid editors like Sublime, which are very good. But no matter what editor you use, it'll still get the job done. So I'm going to type code, space, and then a period, and that's going to open up this whole directory in Visual Studio Code. Now let's maximize this so we have a little bit more space, and go to that Package.JSON. Okay, now I'm going to make some more space for us here, and we can see the Package.JSON file is like instructions to the computer and to us as the developers about what this project is built from and what it can do. So obviously we have name, version, right, homepage, which is nice. For this particular project, you could go and see it in action at the homepage. We have the dependencies. Now these tell the computer, in this case the Node Package Manager, it tells the Node Package Manager what packages need to be installed for this project to run properly. Okay, so this is great. This is what allows us to run projects on our machine and be confident that they're most likely going to work, because we're getting all the same packages and all the same versions. We don't actually store all the code for all those packages in our repository on GitHub. That's why we're able to push code to GitHub and download code from GitHub so quickly, because the bulk of the project code is going to be here in these dependencies, right? So by simply including this Package.JSON file, we're giving all the instructions that NPM needs to rebuild this on someone else's computer. So the packages here, the node modules, live on my computer, and if you download it, they'll live on your computer, but they'll never go up to GitHub. We also have our scripts. Now our scripts are going to tell us what commands we need to use to run this project. So in this project, we do have, oops, where are we at? There we go. In this project, we do have a README that gives instructions on how to run the project, but you won't always have that. Sometimes the maintainers of a repository may not have instructions written out like that. So in that case, we can look here and see what kind of scripts we have. So pre-deploy, we're not ready for deployment yet, right? We just download this. But we can try this, this start, right? And this will run React scripts start. Our build is going to get ready for deployment. We don't want to run tests yet, and we don't want to eject. So pretty safe to assume if we want to run this locally for development purposes, we're going to use start. Okay? And in fact, that's what it does say in the README to use. So let's run the start command, the start script, and see what happens. Whoops, before we do that, let's install our packages, right? I guess we could try the start script first. Let's see what happens when we do that. So we could run npm run start. On newer versions of npm, you can leave the run out. So I believe that's optional in newer versions. See, look what happened. We got all kind of errors. It's looking for all these packages, and we don't have them. All right, so now let's run. You can run npm install Okay, so npm install will download all those packages. There's an alternative to npm called Yarn. I happen to be using Yarn on this project. If you're interested in Yarn, you can read more about it and choose to download it if you want. It does the same thing as npm. So I'm going to run Yarn. You can run npm install if you're following along, and it'll do the same thing for us. So when we hit enter, it's going to get all those packages and install them. And depending on how large the project is and how many packages, this could take a while. Also if you have a slow internet connection or you're running this on an old computer, you may have time to go get a cup of coffee. But in this case, it's a small project on a fast computer with a fast connection, so it's done already. Let's go back now and look at what's new. So we can see our folder tree here. And look, we have this node modules folder that was not there before. If we take a peek in here, here's a bunch of packages. It's huge, right? Let's close that thing up. Because each one of these packages also has a Package.JSON file with more packages, right? So the bulk of our project's code is in this node modules folder. Okay, so that's why we have this git ignore file, and this says these are all the files that I want Git to ignore, and I don't want these saved to GitHub. So node modules is there, because that would be a whole lot to push up to GitHub, right? So now that we have that, let's try to run our start script again and see what happens this time. So I'm going to hit the up arrow key, and that's going to let me just run through all the commands that I've recently typed. So this is a big time saver. So I'm going to go back up to npm run start, hit enter, and let's see what happens. All right, so it's telling me something is already running on port 3000. I happen to have another project running, but that's not a big deal. We can just run on a different port. So I'm going to hit Y and hit enter to run on a different port. Now, on my other screen, this just opened. Okay, so this will pop up in your default browser at localhost 3001. So for you, if you don't have any other projects running, it'll probably be localhost 3000. But we now have this React Seeding Manager project, and we can run it. It works. It works just like as if it was online. So if you went to that URL that's in our Package.JSON file, you would see the same thing. So this is running. It's working, but it's running off of our code here. And now we can make changes. So if we go to our file, let's just change something very obvious. Where's our title? There we are. Let's go. I'm really excited about this, so let's add 3 exclamation points. I think it's always a good idea, we're going to save, to use either 1 exclamation point or 3. For some reason 2 just bothers me. And here you are, see? We've changed the code, we've changed the program, and we see an automatic change there. Not every project is going to automatically change like that. It depends on how the repository owner set up the project. But in this case, it automatically updates. So that's it. That's all you need to know to download a project. Now, there are some projects that aren't JavaScript based. You may need some other things for that. But a lot of projects on GitHub are JavaScript based. So if you're a web developer, you're most likely going to be doing something similar to this. Maybe in another video we'll cover what to do next. Like, I made changes, now what? Okay, but for now, you should know everything you need to know to pull down a repository. Quick recap before we go. Step 1, make sure you have Node installed on your machine. Step 2, and also Node comes with NPM, so it's not a separate install. Step 2, make sure you have Git installed on your machine. Right? We used GitHub desktop app to kind of do the installation for us. And then step 3 is find a repository on GitHub and get that clone link. Okay, when you do that, you can run git clone, paste the link in, and now you have the repository. If there are instructions in the README, read over those first and follow those. A project may have some extra steps you need to do, so if a project's README varies from what I've said in this video, go with that particular project's instructions. So let me know if this video was helpful, if I messed up anything, or there's something else that you'd like me to cover. If this is helpful to you, I'd love to do more videos, so please let me know. If you like it, that's awesome. If you could like the video, but really I love feedback. So let me know in the comments what you think, and hopefully I'll be back soon with another video. And be sure to check out my live streams on the Free Code Camp YouTube channel as well. Have a great day. I'll see ya.